Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is going to be another in my RHCE practice session series where I am preparing for the Red Hat Certified Engineer exam. I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite everyone who's watching who has not subscribed yet to click that subscribe button and ring the bell when you do so you can be aware of when new content comes available. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, or click like rather, and if there's anyone that would be able to benefit from the video, feel free to share it with them. Also, you're welcome to leave comments, ask questions, give praise and critique. I'll respond to it as I have both time and ability. So this is going to be my last practice session on the objective variables under the understand core components of Ansible. I've had a lot to cover with this, and frankly just some stuff that has come to me while I've been doing the practice sessions, which is one of the reasons why I've broken this into a couple of videos. I do want to remind you that this is not necessarily intended to be authoritative information, nor is it intended to be a tutorial. Rather, this is an opportunity for me to talk about whatever objective I happen to be covering on the video and do a self-assessment. So at the end of the video, if I feel pretty confident about the thing I was discussing or doing examples of, then I'm probably pretty well prepared to handle tasks on the exam related to those objectives or that objective. And if not, then I know what I need to be looking at between now and the exam, which is just under a month away. So diving back in the variables, I've already logged into my Ansible control node, and again I have my little pre-made environment to be able to work with. The first thing I want to talk about are some variables that are called special variables, and I think in the Sander van Vogt book, which is one of the resources that I've used in my preparation, he calls them magic variables. And these are variables that are pre-made by Ansible, and they're something that, let's say that you make a variable by that same name, whatever the pre-made thing with Ansible, that's going to be whatever the value that variable is. One thing that I do know that I need to do before I take the exam is look at some documentation and see if there's any listings of these. I know that you can get that on the Ansible docs site. You can look at special variables. However, I will be curious to find out if there's some offline documentation that you would get with the Ansible-doc command that mentions that, because there are a number of them, and there are a couple that I do have memorized as far as their names and such. But if there's not sufficient documentation for them, then I'm probably going to have to do some memory work over the next month just to make sure that I have some ones that seem like they're pretty common available in my head, because obviously if there's no documentation to refer to, then you need to have that memorized for the exam. So let me show you an example of one such variable that I'm thinking of, and that is, I think it's called Ansible host vars, or maybe just host vars. So let's do this. Let's make us a playbook real quick. We're going to call it, we'll call it special vars.yml, and we'll do this. Let's see, check special vars. We'll do this against just one host. So labrel am, we'll do 04. It doesn't get a lot of love. And we'll go ahead and become, there might be some things that we would need to have privilege to be able to see in the variables, though I'm not sure if that's 100% true, because I remember when I was doing some practice labs and such, I swear there were sometimes things would come up in like Ansible facts if I had become as yes, and things that were missing if I did not specify become, but I'm not sure if that's 100% true all the time. So let's do our tasks and name show a var. We'll use our good old debug module for this, and var, and I believe it is called just host vars. So let's see what happens. Again, I'm doing this from memory. I think it's either Ansible underscore host vars or just host vars. So let's run the playbook and see what happens. Okay, so it was just host vars. And these host vars, I'm not sure if this is running against the actual host or if it's running against our control node. That'll be something that I need to look up as far as some of the function of the host vars. But you see all this information that's available to you, and it looks very similar to like Ansible facts, but Let's see, host vars lab. Okay, so this showed the host vars for all of the hosts. Okay, well, let's try this then. Let's go back into our playbook, and we'll do host vars and just lab rel an04. Let's see what's returned with that. And one of the reasons why this is that special variable is we haven't done anything to define what the host vars are. It's just something that we have values for. All right, so well, I don't think that made much of a difference. Special variables are something that I need to review some. But I did want to mention them in a practice session just to where, if you're trying to think of stuff that you need to know for your RHCE exam, know that special variables are a thing and you need to be a bit more familiar with them. So for that particular objective, I'm going to call that a fail right now, not for all the variables, but just knowing about special variables. I clearly need to put some effort into that. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about with variables, and I saved this for a video, was talking about precedent. And we're going to do a little experiment here. So we have vars test. Let us create a directory for host vars. And we'll make host vars lab rel an04. And we're going to create a variable called foo. We're going to set foo to, this is a value from host vars. Do host underscore vars. All right, so we'll just reuse the same playbook. So I'm going to copy the special vars to var precedent YML. Let's go into var precedent, and we're going to change host vars to foo. And let's run the playbook. All right, and this is what we expected because we defined a host var for lab rel an04, which I think we did. Yeah. And well, we had to have done that. Man, can you tell I'm getting tired? I'm forgetting things I've done like 10 seconds ago. Anyway, so we defined that in host vars, and we have this is the value from host vars. So let's say that we had a conflict. Let's make group vars. Actually, I think I'm go in my inventory. I think I put different things in the inventory. I wasn't thinking this through very much. Yeah, I put 01 and 02 in my little test servers. So let's change this to 3.4. And let's create some group vars. So make dir group vars. And we will make a group vars file for test servers. And we'll set foo to this is a value from group vars. All right, and let's see what value comes up. So Ansible playbook, this will be var precedent. And let's see what we get here. All right, so it did the value from host vars. And what I'm going to do, let's rename the host vars file to .old. And this should give us the group vars value now. Yep, okay, so what this is telling us is that if you have a conflict of a variable of the same name in your host vars and your group vars, the host vars variable is going to take precedent for that. And that, I believe I remember reading the general kind of rule on precedent is whichever is like the most specific definition of a variable is what's going to win. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true all the time. And I do remember in the Sander van Vogt book, he talked about like there's 20 something different ways that a variable can be created, and that creates all sorts of questions as far as precedent. So we're just going to check out a few, but I think it's important to experiment and see. All right, so we're going to change the host vars back to its original name and run our playbook once more, and that should get us back to the value from host vars. All right, so let's go back into the playbook. and we're going to define a variable now. So we're going to do vars foo, and this value is from the playbook definition. All right, and so let's see what value comes up with the playbook. I'm suspecting it's going to be what I have just defined in the playbook itself. All right, and that would make sense because that is a bit more specific than using an outside file such as vars or host vars. Now what I'd like to do, we're actually going to remove that from our playbook in just a moment, but I'm going to make it just a little vars file. I'm just going to call it vars, and we're going to set foo. This is from an external file. So this is neither host vars nor group vars, just an external file. So let's see what happens with var precedent there. What I'm going to do, I think I can just comment this out. There we go. So we have vars files, and we're just going to do vars for that. And let's see what, oh, that didn't work. There we go. All right, so it grabbed it from the external file. So it looks like the external file is winning the precedent there between your host vars and your group vars. So let's go back into our var precedent. And I'm not sure if it will let you have vars and var files. I think it would. So let's see what happens. This is why you do your practice session and you experiment in your lab, so that way you're not experimenting on your exam. Okay, so external file won for that. That's kind of curious. And it didn't complain about the fact that we had both of them there. So I wonder if one was ignored over the other. So let's go to var precedent. And I want to change the order here. I don't think this is going to make a difference, but I'm just curious. Nope, it didn't make a difference. So it looks like if you have vars and you have external file, then external file is going to win, but it is not going to win compared to host vars and group vars. That's kind of cool. That's not what I expected. I expected the one that I have defined in the playbook to be like the variable to rule them all. So let's do this. I'm going to get rid of our vars files. So this now should have the precedent of the one in the playbook winning. All right, so now let's try dictating the variable. So Ansible playbook var precedent, we're going to do -e foo equals this value is from the command line. Let's see which value we get. Okay, that makes sense because I have some spaces. So let's try this one more time. So that answered the question of precedent, but I'll bet I need to put this into quotes. There we go. All right, so the command line overwrote cat var precedent. So the command line overwrote the vars that were there. So let's go back into var precedent. And we are going to, I'm just going to get rid of the lines here. Vars files. Files or file? Sometimes I forget. We'll do a list this time. All right, so again, if we do this without -e, that should give us the value from var files. Yep, so now let's do it with the -e. Foo equals, this is from the command line. So let's see what wins between that. All right, so it looks like whatever comes from the command line is going to be what's precedent. It's curious though about explicitly defining the variable versus the var files, unless it just ignores it. But I would expect there to be some type of warning or something. So let's do this. Let's go back into our playbook. We didn't talk about this in the playbooks session, or actually I don't think I've got to that in a video, the official like working with playbooks video. But what I want to do is add a line vars foo, and then this is internal to the playbook. And what I want to do is run the playbook with a level of verbosity, -v. All right, so it tells us that we're using Ansible config. All right, that didn't tell us much. So let's do 2 V's. All right, so let's see. It told us our config file, where we're searching for that. Well, there's one play in that playbook, yep. And task path, all right. Okay, let's do 3 V's this time. All right, that got us a lot more stuff. So let's go up here. Far more stuff than we need, but what I'm curious, all right, so read var file vars, check special vars, yep, read the vars file. So it looks like it's not even reading just vars. This is reading the vars file. All right, so let's clear our screen here. Let's make a change. Let's see, var precedent, and we're going to get rid of the vars file. We're going to keep vars, and I'm going to add a vars prompt. We're going to name it foo prompt. Tell me what foo is. All right, we're just going to run the playbook without the extra verbosity. Oh, made a mistake there. Forgot to put a colon after prompt. All right, let's try that again. Tell me what foo is from the prompt. Okay, so it read from the prompt. So let's do the 3 V's this time. For whatever reason, I was expecting to have some more stuff and realized the prompt was there at the bottom. So let's try this. So from the prompt. And let's see what it read. Or if it even tells us. Doesn't look like it's telling us. So that'll be something to research as well, just kind of for my own curiosity, because I wonder if it's just the fact that it ignores the multiple things there. You know, I want to do one other experiment. So var precedent. So we have vars prompt. Let's add the vars file back in. Oops. That's not going to work. Let's see which variable that we get. So it did the external file. I'll bet there's something to that. Like it would take the external file first, or like as the one for the most precedent. But we do know that the more specific thing in the playbook or the prompts and such, that will take precedent over the host vars, which takes precedent over the group vars. So some good stuff to see. And it's one of these, this will be more useful knowledge for troubleshooting. Let's say that on the exam they actually give us a playbook. Of course, there's no way for me to know. And, you know, one of the objectives is make the playbook work. And if we have variables coming from multiple sources, knowing a bit about precedent helps with that. So this is definitely something that I'll need to look into a bit more. I think I have a pretty good idea of the precedent, but it's one of these I don't feel as strongly as some of the other objectives, but this is why you do these kind of things. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this and the other variables videos. Hopefully watching me kind of struggle through some of this has given you some ideas for your own preparation. And I, again, have tried to make the information as accurate as possible for you. I want to thank again returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as encourage everyone, if you haven't subscribed yet, to click that subscribe button. Also, if you enjoyed this and found it useful, make sure you click like and feel free to share with others. Thanks again for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.